never learn. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome to our show today. It is Wednesday, October 31st, 2018, hump day, middle of the weekday. And it's also, of course, Halloween. And I don't know about where you are, but our storms blew through here, so we're expecting to have the little kiddies come around trick-or-treating tonight. We're all set up for that here. And it is, again, how silly this politicalization of Halloween costumes is getting. And apparently there was a big stink over this comic book character, the Black Panther. And so their creators have now gone public saying, yes, kids can wear it. It's not offensive. It's not meant to be offensive. Of course, they're getting licensing fees on this. This one, I think, is a little over the top. Over in Missouri, there's this white nurse who posted a photo of herself and her husband dressed as Beyonce and Jay-Z for Halloween, posting it on Facebook. It created an instant uproar because, of course, they had blackened their faces, and she winds up getting fired for it. Have we forgotten what holidays are supposed to be about? A time to sort of let go, have fun. Now, over in Georgia, the sheriff is putting up warning signs on the front lawns of known sex offenders or suspected sex offenders, warning children not to trick-or-treat there. And I sort of agree with that, although I despair that in this day and age it's even necessary. And when I was a kid, every once in a while, I mean, child molesters were very rare, or at least we didn't look in the back room at the church or something. But again, I have to wonder, why is our entire society going so crazy and so aberrant? And I keep thinking back to those prescription psychiatric medications. Anyway, CNN actually came out with a flowchart on whether you should wear a specific costume for Halloween. Now, it's clearly written a little tongue-in-cheek, but it still indicates this idea. There are acceptable costumes and there are unacceptable costumes. I disagree. I think the First Amendment applies to Halloween costumes. And I'm really sick and tired of liberals whose entire reason to breathe is going around looking for things to complain about, are ripping up the Halloween holiday. So, anyway. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Mike is in our control room, ready to put you on the phone, show with your comments, questions, and opinions here. So let's talk about the migrant horde who are, bit by bit, getting closer to our border. Actually, it's more than bit by bit. Apparently, somebody has organized a new motorcade, buses, to get them to the border as quickly as possible. The question is, will they be at our southern border before next Tuesday and the midterms? Because obviously somebody is trying to make a political point with all of this thing. And the debate right now settles around birthright citizenship and whether Trump has the authority to end it. And I did a little bit more reading and a little bit more study on this, and it turns out he may not need to. Because this idea that the children of non-citizens, when born on U.S. territory, are U.S. citizens by birth, was held up back in 1898, pardon me, in the Wong Kim Ark case by the United States Supreme Court. However, the parents in question in the Wong Kim Ark case were legal immigrants. They had come in through the legal process, meaning the United States Supreme Court has never directly addressed the status of children born to illegal immigrants in the U.S. Now, in rereading the 14th Amendment, there is a part in there about being under the jurisdiction of the United States. And obviously, people who are inside this country illegally are not under the jurisdiction of the United States. They're essentially criminals. If they were under the jurisdiction of the United States, they'd be headed back to the border. And so on that argument, it could be said that the 14th Amendment does not, in fact, apply to illegal immigrants. And this is probably going to be tied up in the courts for years. But it is a silly idea. And most countries have now rejected it. And I think it's time for the United States to join the 21st century. All right, let's take a phone call. Jim in Chicago, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Speaking of anchor babies, this is something that Trump could do right now. As you know, there are medical centers, hospitals, clinics that advertise overseas telling women, why don't you have your baby born in America? You know, they charge them several $1,000s. A lot of the women are coming from China, Russia, Eastern Europe, even South Koreans that go into Guam, where their newborn babies are automatically given a Social Security card, a passport, and they're now American citizens. Why doesn't Trump go after these places?
I think he definitely could under Title VIII. The question is what they're doing actually technically a violation? And I'd have to reread Title VIII to really look into that. But it's definitely underhanded. And there is a huge market for people who want to have their babies born in this country to make them U.S. citizens. But it does need to stop. It definitely needs to stop. And again, in rereading the 14th Amendment, for a baby born in this country to be considered a citizen, the parents have to be under the jurisdiction of the government. And obviously, criminal, illegal immigrants fail that test.
Now, you're living in Hawaii. Do you have a problem like this?
We do have our share of illegal immigrants and refugees who are being flown on out here. It's not a major problem. Culturally, we tend to be, multicultural because of the history of Hawaii. So everybody's sort of used to the idea that there's all kinds of different races around here. We all get along, spirit of aloha and everything. But yeah, we do have illegals who are here. We do have refugees who are here. And they, along with our 8,000 estimated homeless, are putting a strain on our already strained economy.
Right. And the final point, this tent city or concentration camp that Trump wants to build for these illegals coming to our country, how much is that going to cost us?
Probably a lot less than letting the illegals out into the population and then having to hunt them back down again when they fail to show up for their court hearings.
Mm-hmm. Okay, that makes sense then. Okay, thank you very much. You have a good show.
All right, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open again.
Okay, thank you very much. You have a good show.
All right, thank you. All right, we're going to do a shout out now to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining our network. Now, there is an interesting little story here. This came out of Hideout Now. And apparently, Cabot Phillips of Campus Reform visited Lock Haven University in Lock Haven, Pennsylvania, to basically talk to students about the approaching migrant horde. And apparently, this Phillips just was talking to students, and many of them said they believe the U.S. should open the borders. But none of them could actually come up with a reason why, other than to say, diversity is good. Well, in my point of view, the more illegal immigrants who come in here, diverse it gets. And it's sort of become a mark of liberalism that there are no thoughts behind the policies and the agenda. It's simply sold as jingoism and mantra and repetition. Diversity is good. Diversity is good. Diversity is good. Oh, okay. Diversity is good. We must open the borders. And they don't think what the actual response is going to be, what the consequences are going to be. And that is a failure of our education system, which doesn't want people able to think and analyze. They just want people who believe, who do what they're told. Believe in the liberal cause here. Okay, yet another medical expert has come on forward saying that the biggest problem we're facing with the migrant horde is the public health risk. Now, Dr. Jan Orient, who's the executive director of the Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, is out there warning these approaching migrants are very probably bringing diseases with them. We already know that the existing refugees and illegal immigrants have brought diseases into this country that had been eradicated. Scabies is now a problem all over the country. There's been one reported case of bubonic plague, H1N1, all kinds of things are out there. They could be bringing, they could have been the source of typhus, which is now sweeping across Los Angeles. We don't really know, but it's a very reckless policy. And he does make mention of the history of immigration in this country. Even in the heyday of massive immigration to this country, they all had to go through Ellis Island, which was an island isolated from the mainland for the very reason of screening for contagious diseases and putting them into quarantine if they were. So it just makes no sense from a public health standpoint to just let in a bunch of people who have not been medically screened. All it takes is one of them with Ebola. There could be a problem. And right now, they're unable to get a handle on that Ebola outbreak in the Democratic Republic of the Congo because it's a conflict zone. Everybody's moving around. Everybody's trying to get out. All it takes is one infected person to get on an airplane. By the end of the flight, everybody on that plane is a carrier. And by the time they leave the airport, everybody in the airport is a carrier. Now, apparently, some of these Central American migrants who are facing deportation after being arrested in Mexico for acts of violence actually set fire to the Mexican immigration facility. And the fire was started at this facility. It's dual-purposed as a checkpoint and makeshift detention center for Mexico's National Migration Institute. And the migrants basically set fire to their mattresses in what appears to have been an attempt to escape. And I just want you to think about something. If the Democrats get their way, these will be your new neighbors. So, anyway, interesting little story. This is coming out of the Daily Caller. And as you know, there's a lot of corporate media down there telling both sides of the story. So Fox News' Griff Jenkins was talking to a man named Jose with the help of a translator. And Jose admitted his criminal past and said he's traveling with the caravan to enter the United States with the hope of receiving a pardon. He then went on to say that in my country, Honduras, I got in trouble. And when asked to elaborate, Jose said attempted murder. Remember, migration is a filtering process. We're not getting the best of the people from Guatemala and Honduras. The people who are successful there, who are making it, they're going to stay right where they are. What we're getting are the people who can't make it in their home country. And they're lured by the promise of free stuff, or they're lured by the promise of America's medical care because they know that they're ill, or they're fleeing prosecution. Now, there's been another development here, and I have to tell you, I am staunchly against this. Apparently, Texas landowners along the U.S. and Mexico border have reportedly been told this week by the U.S. Border Patrol to expect a possible influx of armed civilians on their property. Vigilantes, if you want to call them, or militias. And the AP is reporting these civilians say they intend to support the National Guard and Border Patrol to prevent the illegal migrants from crossing into the U.S., which is a laudable goal, except that they're not really under the control of either the Border Patrol, the National Guard, or the military. And all it's going to take is just one woman or child to be shot and killed, and the liberals are going to have a field day. Now, the National Guard and the Army and the Border Patrol are apparently preparing to use non-lethal means to drive the migrants back. And that's the smart move to do. And these so-called armed militias, there could very easily be an agent provocateur in there whose job is to shoot a woman or a child or both in order to give the liberals a talking point. So I think those Texas landowners maybe ought to post some no trespassing signs and say, we appreciate, your intention. We appreciate that you want to protect the borders, but we need to leave it to the trained professionals. All right, getting into the elections, we're 6 days away from the midterms here, and the early voting data is revealing an uphill battle for Democrats. Now, the race is close, but overall, Republicans are doing better, and Democrats are doing worse than they did in 2016. So there's been a big shift toward the GOP, and the blue wave may in fact be a blue flush. But again, the wild card is election fraud, which is out there. Now, the Republicans are saying there's massive election fraud, which there is, and the Democrats are saying, oh, pish and tosh, how silly of you. There's no election fraud out there, except for the Russians. The Russians stole the presidency from Hillary Clinton. But apparently down in Texas, going back to 2016, there was a situation where these women who have now been arrested and charged were filling out applications for mail-in ballots with forged signatures. Then they would either assist the voter with filling out the ballot or just fill it out themselves and use deception to get the voter to sign the envelope. The ballot would be sent back in. And we already know that's happening again this election. Applications for absentee ballots were being sent out to illegal immigrants. Now, fortunately, some of them called on into the state election board and say, am I allowed to vote? And of course, they were told, no, you're not. But somebody was sending those out there in the hopes that these illegal immigrants would fill them out, not thinking about whether it's legal for them to vote, send them on in, get a mail-in ballot, fill it out, voting Democrat, and send it in. And because the ballots are separated from the identity, there's no way to know the ballot is actually illegal. It's one of the many ways our election system is totally, totally screwed up. And I'm very disappointed that Trump has not dealt decisively with this issue. But again, going on back and looking at the early voting numbers, the early voting, the mail-in voting, it's showing a heavy Republican turnout. And I think liberalism has had its day for at least this swing of the pendulum. These things tend to go back and forth. The nation will swing conservative, then it will swing liberal, then it will swing conservative. And I think the pendulum is about ready to go back the other way, because we're all sick and tired of things like men are allowed to use the women's room and all this political correctness saturating our media. And as I mentioned the other day, people seek entertainment to get away from the real world, whether it's reading comic books or watching TV and movies or just listening to music or watching sports events. It's escapism where they can leave all their troubles behind, of which most Americans have quite a few. But just like they're trying to do with the Halloween costumes, the social justice warriors, the liberals, they have to make everything politically correct. It has to conform to the political agenda. More about this when we come back from these words from our sponsors.
The
First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to LibertyStickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's LibertyStickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and Fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org, and thank you.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And the polling data is showing gains by the GOP in the Senate, not just the House. And it's funny because earlier today, Nancy Pelosi was out there saying, yes, we're going to capture the House of Representatives with a big smile on her face. But the smile basically stopped at the nose. And the rest of her face upward, I think, was telling a far more accurate story. But again, getting on back to this, I think people are tired of political correctness. It's just gone way too far. And you've seen it this Halloween, where they're saying you can't have sexy Halloween costumes. Well, I think that's up to the people wearing the costumes here. And you had all those feminists who went over to the comic book companies and said, well, your female superheroes, you've got to cover them up. They're showing way, way too much skin. And the comic book companies went along with that, and sales plummeted. The latest Star Wars movie, which was all PC and multicultural, did not do as well as the earlier parts of the franchise. People are just getting sick of this stuff. And look how well PC is working out for the National Football League. Okay, let's take a phone call. Terry in California. Aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I think this PC stuff is just the beginning. I think it's very contrived, and I think eventually it's only the first step, and eventually it's going to be something where they're going to enforce it. and they're going to say you can't do this and you can't do this. It's not PC, and they're going to come down with the full force of the government later. You know, I don't know what you think about that, but I think this is just to get people acclimated to it now. And, you know, they're going to go from PC offending people to this is what you can do and what you can't do in the society.
Well, I'm pretty sure that that was sort of a desired goal of the PC movement. But at this point, it just looks like the general population has had enough. And people, you know, are just going to say and think what they want to say and think. And that's protected, at least for now, by the First Amendment. But you're absolutely right. Liberalism basically looks at a world order in which everybody is under absolute tight control, for their own good, of course. But yeah, everybody's under control. Everything that they think is under control. Everything that they do is under control. Liberals do not believe in freedom. They absolutely do not, except for themselves.
Well, that means that the liberals have got a part to play in the New World Order. In other words, you know, maybe the people in the New World Order says, you play our game and we'll give you power.
Oh,
and what I don't understand
there's no question. There's no question that the PC movement is tied in with globalism and the one world government, at least in part to keep everybody so worried about what they're saying and how they're saying it that they're not really paying attention to what's going on out there in the distance. And that's a common political trick, to just load up the people with so much nonsensical ideas like men using the women's restroom, so much paperwork that they don't have any time left over to pay attention to what the rulers are doing. It's even in Shakespeare, in Henry V, Part 2, where Henry IV is telling his son, make it your business to keep giddy minds busy.
Right. And what I don't understand is, you know, the liberals, you know, they want power at any cost. In other words, they're willing to destroy the whole country. But when they destroy the country, they'll be presiding over something that's already destroyed. It's no longer there.
Well, this country is already in bad shape here, but, you know, people who basically engage in a culture war or a real war, their idea is victory at all costs, and, you know, we'll give it a fresh coat of paint after we're all done. Yeah.
And, yeah. Anyway, Mike, I appreciate talking to you, and we'll catch you next time.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are open. Now, a major factor in what appears to be a GOP surge at the polls next week is that the Democrats have tried several stunts, which they overplayed. And, of course, a big one were the antics around the Kavanaugh hearings, where they came on out with these women making these allegations from 30 years ago, nothing to back it up, no proof, and the Democrats were out there saying, well, the women must be believed, the women must be believed. And what's really ironic now, of course, is now that a woman has come forward to accuse Robert Mueller of rape back in 2010, the Democrats are out there saying, oh, well, we got to see proof. I mean, she's obviously being paid, you know, to do this. So there's no consistency in liberal thought here. But Fox News strategist Sebastian Gorka is saying the Republican Party has changed because they're no longer trying to gain approval from every member of the media and every outlet because they know they can't. And so they're going to quit trying, and they're just going to focus on doing what they do. And I think that's a really good idea. You got to stop caring what the corporate media is saying about you. It's one of the things I do like about Trump. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Corporate media dominates the American opinion. Finding independent voices that counter this avalanche is becoming increasingly difficult. With the endless corruption running rampant throughout our government, independent voices are needed more than ever to battle the offensive against our freedoms and liberties. As a listener of RBN, no one understands this concept better than you. Now it's up to you to do your part. The time has come for you to take action and begin broadcasting the truth to hundreds or thousands of people every month. Sound impossible? Quite the contrary. With pointed slogans from LibertyStickers.com, you can reach countless sleeping Americans unaware that they live in a real-life wonderland. LibertyStickers.com has a huge inventory of political bumper stickers and messages that reflect the truth about our government, our politicians, and the future of America. With so many in stock, there's one perfect for you. Visit us today at LibertyStickers.com. Again, that's LibertyStickers.com. Do your part. Your voice is important. Let it be heard.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And a member just put up a story at whatreallyhappened.com. And it's basically sourced back to Wired about how the author of the story succeeded in finding and buying 2 voting machines for less than $100 a piece on eBay. And the guy's a security researcher, and he wanted to see how secure the machines were, and basically he found they weren't secure at all. Not only that, but they had been put out to be sold with all the software still intact. The drives had not been wiped. And so he was able to get in there and learn how these machines worked and develop ways that he could change the outcome of the election recorded on there. Of course, if you've seen Hacking Democracy, you know that you don't need to get into the machine. You just need to get your hand on those memory cards. And security around those memory cards is often lax, as it were. Now, I just went onto eBay and did a quick search, and I have not found a... Oh, I take it back. There's one right there. A 2000 Florida presidential election automatic, a Vote-O-Matic voting booth machine for $85. Boy, there's a piece of history if you remember what happened in 2000. Alrighty. So, that's an interesting little story there. All right, getting on back to the political news. As you know, Project Veritas is out there with their cameras And apparently they sent in a reporter to the campaign office of Claire McCaskill, who's a Democrat, Missouri, and basically recorded her campaign workers saying that she was basically lying to potential voters about being moderate, and that after she won, she was going to go back to being very, very hard left. The video has now gone out on social media, and it has caused quite a bit of harm for McCaskill's campaign because people don't like to be lied to. And now, of course, she's out there demanding a special prosecutor to investigate the use of undercover or hidden camera techniques to address matters of obvious public concern. And there's a little bit of a double standard and hypocrisy here because the politicians and the government, they want all kinds of cameras all over us. They want that Fourth Amendment to go away. They want to be able to just record us at all times. But by golly, if we're trying to point the cameras back the other way, horrors, we want a special prosecutor. So, sauce for the goose and sauce for the gander. But this is her attack on investigative journalism, and it too is causing harm to her campaign. People are not responding positively to that. They don't see her as a victim. But the attack on independent media is continuing. And the really bad news that we got today, Ryan Dawson's Vimeo account was shut down and all of his videos removed. And he issued a video on YouTube, which we link to from whatreallyhappened.com. It's a bit long, but he talks about it. And you can tell he's just absolutely crushed because, well, like all of us in the independent media, we're not doing this to get rich. We're doing it because we believe in what we're doing. And there is an emotional connection. And Ryan Dawson has done a lot of videos. And I'm going to take a guess here that he doesn't have backups for most of them. So, anyway. Over at Instagram, they have removed the hashtag Jews did 9/11. Now, that's been around there pretty much since 9/11. And it's had over 11,000 posts over the years. But the New York Times basically went on over and said, you really need to remove this. And Instagram said, yes, sir, we will remove that. We will remove that. Apparently, Google is trying to censor Marsha Blackburn's campaign ads. Now, Marsha Blackburn, if you will remember, when she was out there at a rally, she asked for a moment of silence for the victims of the synagogue shooting. And the moment of silence was interrupted by protesters screaming, "You're a racist, you're this, you're that." And so she did a campaign ad of that to basically illustrate the mentality, the mindset of her opponents. And Google wants to censor it, claiming that the protesters interrupting her moment of silence consist of shocking content. Now, what Google is trying to censor is anything that makes Democrats look bad between now and the election. That's what Google is really trying to do here. Speaking of selective censorship, as you know, Gab.com got shut down because the shooter at the synagogue had an account there. And they're still not up yet, but they're hoping to be up by the end of the week here. It turns out the same guy had accounts at Facebook and Twitter. But nobody seems to be shutting Facebook and Twitter down. Now I wonder why that would be. Seems rather selective to me. No, what it was an opportunity to get rid of competition, because Facebook and Twitter and Google and YouTube all understand that we out here are looking for alternatives that will not censor our freedom of speech. And they see it as a war. They see it as a threat. We had a story, I think it was about a week ago, where half of millennials have already uninstalled the Facebook app on their smartphones. So it's a war. And the large corporate media feels that anything that they do to get rid of their competition is perfectly acceptable. And that's why they attacked Gab.com. So we'll see what happens with that situation. Over in North Carolina, at their state university, there was this professor, Michael DeSoucy, who handed out papers to his students instructing them to block Fox News from their parents' TVs and turn out against Trump. And the paper actually said, when they're not looking, set the parental controls on the TVs of your family members to block Fox News because Fox News spreads bigotry and hatred. Now, this triggered a huge backlash, and the professor has now been forced to apologize. Whatever happened to the good old days when colleges and universities were about education, but they too have become politicized by the liberals. Everything is politics, just like the old Soviet Union, just before they collapsed. Okay. Somebody just emailed me. Apparently, Michael Avenatti is out there saying that Cesar Sayoc targeted him. The package hasn't arrived yet, but he's sure that he was targeted. It's Me Too all over again. Me too. I got a suspicious package. No, I got a suspicious package. Somebody did a spoof illustration about the pipe bomb in the package, and it was basically a briar smoking pipe glued to the top of a egg timer, sand timer, hourglass. So anyway, we're going to take a phone call. James in Charlotte, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Mike. I just getting back just a minute to the 14th Amendment. I'd seen somebody had made the observation that without the anchor babies being legal citizens, Donald Trump's children would not be citizens because Don Jr., Ivanka, and Eric were all born before Donald's first wife, Ivana, became a naturalized citizen.
Yeah, but Donald Trump himself was a U.S. citizen. And the issue here is whether illegal immigrants, children, can be U.S. citizens. And again, I think it comes down to that jurisdiction clause in the 14th Amendment. And the reason I say that is when the 14th Amendment was passed, it did not make the Native Americans American citizens because they were considered under the jurisdiction of their own tribal laws. Citizenship was not granted to Native Americans until much, much later. And I think the same situation applies here. So, when you have people who are here in this country illegally, they're technically not under the jurisdiction of the government. Therefore, they do not qualify to have their babies made citizens under the 14th Amendment.
Right, yeah, you had talked about that in that the Wong Kim Ark case.
Yes.
But the point, though, I was going to make is that Donald's wife, Ivana, was a legal immigrant at the time. She was not illegal. And so that would not have ever applied to her.
That's right. And clearly she was under the jurisdiction of the U.S. government. She was here legally and working and, integrating into the society. Anyway, James, thanks an awful lot. We're going to let you go here. Get on back here to the news here. Okay, Hillary Clinton has once again demonstrated the absolute bias of the media and, for that matter, the political establishment. Hillary Clinton was having a Q&A with Recode's Kara Swisher, who asked, what do you think of Cory Booker saying kicked him in the shins? Now, the question was a response or a reference, a bad reference to a recent comment that actually came from former Attorney General Eric Holder, who said, when Republicans go low, we kick them. And Clinton responded to remind Swisher that it was Holder who made the comment, and Swisher then apologized, at which point Hillary Clinton said, I know they all look alike, followed by her trademark cackle. And the liberals in the audience, they thought it was funny. Oh, now can you imagine if it had been a Republican who had said that? What would have been the response? They would have been getting the tar and feathers out. The corporate media would be having a field day saying, oh, these all black people look alike. Amazing. They're getting desperate out there. They really are. Over at CNN, on yesterday's edition of New Day with Allison Camerota, host John Avlon basically tried to compare Trump's America First platform to Germany's Kristallnacht. Now, you know, when they start trying to link everything Trump is doing to the Nazis and Hitler and Kristall, they're getting really, really desperate. And there has been no shortage of Hitler or Nazi analogies over the last 2 years. But this is a new low. It's absolutely here. Now, actor James Cromwell, and if you don't know who I'm talking about, he plays these very grandfatherly roles. He played the scientist in iRobot. He played the president in Sum of All Fears. And he comes across as a very nice guy. But during the 4th annual Carney Awards, where he was receiving an award, he basically came on out and just went on the attack against conservatives, saying this is nascent fascism. We always had a turnkey totalitarian state. All we needed was an excuse, and all the institutions were in place to turn this into pure fascism. And this was an interview in Variety newspaper, magazine, if you will. And he went on to say, if we don't stop President Trump now, then we will have a revolution for real. There will be blood in the streets. Well, Trump isn't the one who took the country fascist. That was happening long, long ago, long before Trump even decided to run. But we're back to this polarity. I mean, what the liberals want is socialism. And the exact polar opposite of that, of course, is fascism. And somewhere in the middle is where capitalism is supposed to reside. But we've reached the point now where the Democrats are calling the Republicans fascists, and the Republicans are calling the Democrats socialists, and sadly, they are both correct. Okay, over in the court of U.S. District Court Judge Royce Lamberth, things are really heating up over there. He's now accusing the State Department officials of telling lies and signing false affidavits to try and derail lawsuits that sought information about Hillary Clinton's private email server, along with how she handled the Benghazi terror attack in 2012. And the judge said that he was absolutely shocked to learn that Clinton's former chief of staff, Cheryl Mills, had been granted immunity by the FBI during their investigation of Clinton's private email server. Remember when that happened? The FBI started investigating, and they were handing out immunity like they were M&Ms. And now we know why. Because all these people were signing false affidavits, which normally would get you charged with perjury. But oh, no, they've got an immunity deal. They provided helpful information. No, they provided lies. This gets back to a question I'm going to keep on asking. What is it about that private email server that has so many people in the government terrified out of their minds? And I still think you need to look back at the 1996 Chinagate scandal to get a clue as to what was going on. Back in 1996, Bill Clinton, using his authority as president, authorized the sale of very sensitive technology with military application to China, and Chinese money started pouring into his re-election campaign through Chinese American citizens to make it quasi-legal. But Congress did in fact start an investigation, which went nowhere because the White House email server crashed and there had not been any backups. We've heard that one before. So I think the reason that everybody is so scared about that email server is that Hillary Clinton was doing exactly the same thing. From inside her position as Secretary of State, I suspect that Hillary Clinton was selling U.S. secrets to foreign interests and using her weak email server to deliver the information and her so-called charitable foundation to collect and launder the money. And nobody wants to touch that. Nobody wants to get near it. We got to take a break for commercials, and we'll be right back.
Hi, folks. CBD is the home run hitter for health right now. Why, you ask? Because of what it does for the body. Unfortunately, I can't tell you all about the benefit. You know, there's reasons. Do your due diligence and log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com. Ancient Life Oil uses organic ingredients and is blended in coconut oil for some of the best benefits. Legal in 50 states and non-psychoactive. Log on to ancientlifeoil.com. That's ancientlifeoil.com.
Do you worry a lot? Whether you're a college student, busy professional, parent, or grandparent, ongoing stress and elevated levels of the stress hormone cortisol can rob your memory, your health, and your future. Now you can combat the effects of stress and anxiety while improving your memory and recall at the same time with the dietary supplement Calm and Clever. Studies show that the ingredients in Calm and Clever reduce cortisol by as much as 30% in 1 to 2 weeks. Call 1-800-758-8746 or calmandclever.com.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you some from Amazon.com. This product is superb. I have been taking it for about a year now, and I can feel my cardiovascular system run like a Swiss watch. I definitely recommend this product for anyone that has high cholesterol, high blood pressure, and heart palpitations. A+. It's potent, but it works. I have been waking up for the past 3 years with numb hands, and a week into using Extendivite, my numb hands seem to have cleared up. My circulation was off, and now it's back on track. So I'm happy. I feel so energized, and I have my husband on it now. My mother-in-law has cholesterol problems, so I bought her a bottle as well. Thank you so much. Love the product. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite. When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to the show here. And apparently Trump is beginning to realize that the 7,000 personnel they have down on the southern border may not be enough. And it just came over Fox News that he's talking about doubling it to get a total of 15,000 down there. Now they're getting into the kind of numbers I think they really need. Because, again, this is a test for Donald Trump. He's out there. He has basically staked his reputation that these migrants are not going to get through that southern border. And, of course, the Democrats are going to do everything they can to see that they do, because then they can campaign on that and say, see, Trump is a failure. He failed to protect our borders. Even though it's the Democrats who've been trying to hold those borders open all the time. Now, the Democrats want to get immigration out of the spotlight in the news cycle because they know it's working against them. The vast majority of Americans want these migrants stopped. They want the borders secured. And they want this immigration and illegal immigration and refugee situation brought under control because they're seeing what it's doing to cities like Los Angeles, and it's gone on far enough. So it looks to me, if I'm reading this correctly, that the Democrats are going to try and campaign for the rest of the next 6 days on white nationalism, because it's starting to pop up in all these stories all over. Apparently, let's see, story out of Mondo Weiss. Young Jews hold sit-in at Republican club that hosted Proud Boys to demand renunciation of white nationalism. And again, notice how they're pairing the two words together. It's not just we don't like white people and we're opposed to nationalism because we're globalists. They're trying to link it together so that anybody who is in favor of a strong national border and a strong national identity can be denounced as a racist. And I think that's what the Democrats are going to try and focus on until the midterm elections here. Another story, this one is saying, Pittsburgh statements by progressive Jewish groups stress Trump's fomenting of white nationalism. That's the new buzzword. It's just all over the place here. And this is reporting on how the Pittsburgh branch of Bend the Ark, a progressive Jewish organization committed to racial equality, sent an open letter to the president saying he'd incited the killings at the synagogue and asking him not to come to Pittsburgh until he denounces white nationalism. Now, Bend the Ark is that political action committee co-founded by George Soros' son, Alex, who is also the current chairman. And as this article says, they are progressives, which means they are liberal. And they're pushing that agenda. Okay. This one's kind of interesting. White nationalism and Jewish groups, Jewish Voice for Peace, and If Not Now, are both sides of anti-Semitism, according to the Anti-Defamation League's Jonathan Greenblatt. In other words, everything is anti-Semitic. All right, here's the music. We're going to take a break. We'll be back with hour number 2 after these few words.
Homeowners, if your lender has gone out of business or sold your transaction to another lender or servicer, you may be the victim of a wrongful foreclosure, resulting in the loss of your home. If you've already lost your home, are in foreclosure, or even in good standing, you can challenge the mortgage transaction's illegal issue, and your property can be restored to you, and your foreclosure can be stopped or reversed, and the mortgage transaction declared unenforceable. State laws, U.S. title codes, the Uniform Commercial Codes, and U.S. Supreme Court rulings have upheld that defective mortgage documentations can reverse or stop foreclosures and enforce property title claims in favor of the homeowner. We are having successes in stopping the process of foreclosure, the enforcement of the foreclosure judgments, the sale of property, and evictions after the sale. We are not attorneys, and we don't give legal advice. We are a professional team of legal researchers, providing forensic mortgage audits and expert witnesses. We have the knowledge to produce the evidence and enforce laws regarding your legal issues. We've been in business for 12 years without a complaint. Consultations are free, and we provide a free title search to confirm if your mortgage has legal defects. Please call 855-253-3748. 855, the number 2, keep it today.
You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero, because World War III is a really bad idea. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Hour number 2. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443. Over at CNN, one of their hosts, Don Lemon, actually came on out and said the biggest terror threat to America is white men. And his justification for that, of course, is that there was a white male shooter at the synagogue and a white male supposedly behind these phony bombs. So anyway, all right, let's talk about the conflict zones, because there is a lot going on over there. In Syria, Turkey is finishing their preparations for a major operation against YPG. And according to reports, units of Hayat Tahrir al-Sham have attacked National Front for Liberation positions in the village of Kafr Hamra on October 29th and gained full control of the area by the evening. So it's going back and forth over there. Now, Erdogan is vowing to crush the U.S.-backed Kurdish YPG in Syria. And apparently in his speech before Turkey's parliament, Erdogan vowed to see his country crush the Kurdish YPG in Syria. He says all preparations for the long-threatened offensive are completed and the active operations have started. So it's definitely on. It's definitely on. Okay, we're going to grab ourselves a phone call here from Peter in Los Angeles. Aloha, Peter. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Mike, I saw on What Really Happened Today, to continue on with the white nationalism theme that is a real theme, by the way, the Don Lemon thing, where Don Lemon is claiming that white men are the biggest terror threat in the country. The Southern Poverty Law Center echoes much the same thing. We all know who they're funded by as well. And this is a concerted thing from the Jewish lobby, who gave us the whole anti-Semitic definition that any criticism of Israel, of course, is anti-Semitic. Yep. A real country that drops real bombs, that kills real people, invades real countries, and steals real money and real secrets from us, and has a real fifth column in the United States. And this is a concerted attack, Mike. There's just no doubt about it. And it's a long-running thing. It's really been building, don't you think, for about the last 6 months?
Oh, yeah. Well, we've been seeing it, and a lot of people were commenting. All of a sudden, it's apparently socially acceptable to discriminate against white heterosexual males. Was the Evergreen Community College or something up in Oregon that had a white-free day? Yeah. We've had professors that come out and say that genocide against whites are what they want for Christmas. Nothing. They're never held accountable for that either. No, they're not. If somebody came on out and called for genocide against the blacks, they'd be locked up. But all of a sudden, it's open season. Or God forbid, the Jews. Exactly the same, or the Hispanics. But all of a sudden, it's open season on white people. It's politically acceptable. Well, not to me, it isn't. Well, yeah, it shouldn't be to anybody. It's just like it shouldn't be to anybody for anything. But it's definitely, there's design. There's design and there's planning behind all this. These people are taking away our First Amendment rights and vilifying us, I guess, as the only people that can stand in the way of Jewish supremacists. The only people that will stand in the way, I assume, are the 70% of the country, or 75% that are white. It's not just the Jewish supremacy, because they're pretty much in charge anyway. But the Democrats have been fanning this up by telling feminists that the reason you're not successful in the corporate world is the male patriarchy. They're telling the black population, the white man is holding you down. And they're certainly telling the Hispanics, that the white population is the reason that the borders are being closed and your families can't come in. We've become the scapegoat, and people need to understand this exact same thing happened in Nazi Germany, which is why that comment about Kristallnacht is so ironic. Because Germany, when they were coming out of the Weimar Republic inflation, there was a lot of hunger and a lot of suffering, and the bankers were taking advantage of the people, and everything bad that went wrong started to be blamed on the Jews, and that was a deliberate policy of scapegoating them by the Nazi powers. Bad weather, it's the Jews. A flat tire on the car, it's the Jews. And we know what it led to, and all of a sudden we're seeing that same thing here, just as we've seen anti-white hysteria get out of control down in Zimbabwe and South Africa and now Namibia.
And violence against white people is acceptable. It seems to be an acceptable thing now for people to be violent against. If you've got a Trump sign left over from 2016 in your front yard, or God forbid on your car, you don't have a car.
Yep.
I mean, it's been keyed, or it's been. The violence also against white people it seems to be allowed. But oh my God, anything happens. Oh, by the way, whenever there's a Jewish killer or something like that, they don't have a statistic for that. That goes in with us.
Yes.
It's white. If it's a Jewish perpetrator, it's considered white. But
yes.
Look at this. They don't consider themselves that. They're vilifying us.
No, it's more than that. This is policy from the Anti-Defamation League, where they don't want negative newspaper coverage. I mean, if you go all the way back to the origins of the Anti-Defamation League, and it had to do with this horrific murder and a very controversial trial over the killing of this girl, Mary Fagan, and I forget the name of the guy who basically everybody knew he did it. He was convicted by a jury of his peers. Then the governor of the state issued him an immediate pardon, at which point he was grabbed and lynched. And in the wake of that, the Anti-Defamation League was formed with the express purpose of propagandizing the American people so that they never saw the negative side of the Jewish population.
And Mike, it's important to remind people how the Anti-Defamation League back in the 90s was caught spying on mostly black groups, but everybody else. And now, of course, there's information that the Israeli embassy has been spying on Facebook and on BDS supporters and PDS. They're trying to deny people jobs. I mean, there's a real price to be paid for these guys. They're absolutely insidious.
They absolutely are. I mean, this whole Canary mission, where they're literally tracking students in college who they determine are not sufficiently supportive of Israel, or even worse, they actually see the point of view of the Palestinians, and they're putting them on this website to make sure they can't get a decent job after they leave college. I mean, to me, that's an act of terror. In fact, I think under the definition of the USA Patriot Act, I think it could actually be construed as an act of terror.
Being done by a foreign intelligence agency and a foreign government with the complicity of a fifth column in the United States. This is a freaking fifth column. So let's call it what it is, and let's behave the way. I mean, there certainly are people who are not, but they are mute. So, anyways, it's a fifth column. They are really they're a cancer. The fifth column is, anyways.
Yeah. Well, they're traitors to their own country.
Well, their own country is themselves. And it seems to be that their identity is. When you look back at all the stuff that happened during the Second World War, and apparently all the the atrocities were committed against the Jews by the Poles, by the Ukrainians. Can you imagine? Look what they've done here at 1.8% of the population. They dominate. They dominate the media. They dominate the law. They dominate. They own Congress. They own the press. They own everything. Everything pretty much is controlled by them. And can you imagine? This is with a mature country that's 200 some years old, with mature institutions. Imagine what they did in Poland when they were more than 1.7%, or the Ukraine, or Belarus, or whatever.
Well,
and how they must have taken over there.
Going back over the last 2,000 years, when you look at all the expulsions and persecutions, there's one common factor, and that is that the Jewish population refuses to assimilate into the society. They see themselves as a separate country within the country, and they openly discriminate against everybody else around them. And that's a reality we have in this country. Everyone's always talking about it's bad to discriminate, don't discriminate against the blacks, don't discriminate against the Hispanics, but we ourselves are being discriminated against. But if you dare say anything about it, you're labeled an anti-Semite.
Mike, one last thing, and that is, if you look at the heads of the Federal Reserve, they've all, for the last 40 or 50 years, they've all been Jewish. Even now, look at the Secretary of the Treasury.
Yep.
They're all Jewish now. That's a Jews-only position. Nobody else is allowed to be in the Secretary of Treasury. Nobody's allowed to be head of the Federal Reserve. Those are positions that are Jews, almost exclusively for Jews. And it goes on and on.
Well,
and that's just the powers above the ground.
Yeah, they look out for each other. Anyway, Peter, going to let you go. Thank you for the phone call. We're going to do a shout out to our on-air affiliates who are just now rejoining the network. And we're going to go to Mo in Florida. Aloha, Mo. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, Michael. Tried to get in yesterday. I guess you had some phone problems, huh?
Yeah, we had phone problems. The little hamster and the wire wheel behind everything, he passed away.
Was the hamster work for the Anti-Defamation League?
Well, no, but the hamster was old. We have to get a new hamster.
Well, listen, Mike, it's just amazing to me. I'm not a genius when it comes to history, but if you look back over 1,600 years ago, I think it was 1,608 years ago to be exact, Rome was sacked for the first time in 800 years by the Visigoths and Alaric. And I couldn't help but looking at, kind of reading about it again, and Alaric was a Christian.
Yes.
He became a Christian, and who let him in the gates, the Roman gates, were slaves. It just reminds me so much of this not maybe on that scale, but just how, the country always gets rotten from the inside.
Yes.
We have people in this country that would want to open the gates, just like Alaric had the slaves open the gates, and they ransacked Rome. And it's
happening here. I mean, it's not as obvious as you would see in a movie where they're running through the streets with burlap sacks and grabbing stuff. But if you think about the financial drain on our economy, the competition for jobs, competition for resources, it's already happening. It's in slow motion, and that makes it kind of hard to see. But there's definitely a negative impact.
Well, Saint Jerome lamentated over I've never read much of his writings, but I'm a non-religious person like you, but I was raised a Catholic, so I did learn a little bit about him. But he lamentated about how could this possibly happen? The Rome, which conquered the world, could open their gates and be taken over in just a matter of days and be ransacked. After 800 years, they couldn't believe it. The same thing they're trying to. It's almost history doesn't repeat itself. They say it rhymes. No, I think this one's repeating itself. To be honest with you.
No, I mean, if the Democrats get their way and the borders are kept open, or if George Soros gets his way, and they flood this country with all these refugees and illegal immigrants, the United States, as we know it, will disappear. And of course, that's part of the agenda of George Soros, is that he wants all individual nations to disappear, leaving behind a one world government. And I know that he's not going to get Russia and China to go along with that without much of a fight. But that's exactly what the agenda is.
How come George Soros? I'll let you go, Mike, because you got other callers I know. How come George Soros hasn't been arrested? This is sedition of the most, the highest sort.
I agree. He should be arrested. I mean, his funding of violence-prone groups, that alone is a violation of the USA Patriot Act. But I imagine he has shared his billions with all of the necessary people, where he is untouchable. And in any event, if he were arrested, he's got so much money, his lawyers could keep whatever lawsuits were against him, whatever criminal trial was against him, locked up in appeals until George passes away of natural causes.
Well, Mike, thanks a lot for taking my call. You have to vent, because this is so surreal just to see. I don't care if it's 1,000 people or 100 people. The very fact they think they can pour over our border and illegally, and all these people have waited in lines. I mean, my great-grandparents were immigrants. They came over to this country legally. It was a hard deal. They had to work. They had to survive just like yours did. And these people are just going to pour over the gates, and they think they're what? I don't know. It just blows me away. I can't. It's a very surreal dream, a nightmare. And I hope there's no shooting. I hope they don't have a bloodbath. That they can say, look what Trump did. He murdered innocent women and children. But I think that's kind of what they're trying to provoke,
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, Mo, we're going to let you go here. And before I take the next phone call here, just a story that's coming on up. Apparently, some unknown person went over to the house of the parents of the creator of Gab, turned on the propane tank on the parents' gas grill, turned the burner on, and let the propane leak out without anything, there was no ignition source. So somebody was sending a message here clearly, and hopefully the propane just blew away. But apparently there was enough of it where the neighbors smelled it and called the authorities. And so, yeah, it's getting ugly out there. All right, let's take another phone call. Frank in London, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind? Frank, are you there?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay.
My topic's about the Anti-Defamation League, the Zionist agenda, the neoconservative, and all these kind of, competing agendas. But I urge people to make the distinction between the Israel government, the Zionist, and these people, and don't paint the whole Jewish people with the same brush, tar them with the same brush, because, we've got to be careful of that. Because,
yes, we do. I agree. I absolutely agree.
Because we can walk ourselves in the trap. Oh, you're anti-Semitic. You're anti-Semitic. And I live in London, and you ask most people in London, they couldn't even define what an anti-Semite is. They just don't know.
Yeah.
They just don't know. It's a myth. It's a myth that's been blown out of all proportion, and you get these talking heads and these pseudo-intellects trying to define it for us on telly, because obviously we're stupid, we don't know, Somehow there's some sort of anti-Semite agenda going out somewhere out in the ether that, the general public don't know about. It's just ridiculous. And you have the Democrats, they keep pushing that. And at the same time, you've got people like Don Lemon on CNN, who doesn't really care about black people because he's black. It doesn't mean he cares. They have their own agenda.
Yep.
They're talking heads, and he's just saying the most outrageous, bigoted things and getting away with it. But it's okay because I can see, looking on the outside, I can see the Democrats are doing a very good job of destroying themselves.
They are. Frank, we got to take a break for commercials. Stay on the line. I'm going to come right back to you after these words from our sponsors.
Many people write about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you a few from Amazon.com. My wife and I both use Extendivite and are very pleased with the results. It has helped to stabilize our blood pressure and to make both of us feel healthier. Good product and good buy. So far, so good. I've been taking Extendivite 3 times a day, only a short while now, but already I've noticed the circulation in my hands and feet improving. They tingle. I like the idea of taking something herbal rather than pills. I take Extendivite 3 times a day, every day. I think this supplement has helped with my increased fitness regime and to lower my blood pressure. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Folks, we're living in a world the likes of which we've never perceived any clearer than we do now. The plan for global governance has been in the works for generations and would have likely been achieved by now, but for the fact that the globalists left open their Achilles heel. With all their tools, Federal Reserve System, fiat currency, no child left behind, and then Common Core education introduced to our schools to dumb us down, vaccines, pharmaceuticals to lobotomize us, GMO foods, insertion of compromised or bought and paid for politicians, judges, mainstream media propaganda, all pieced together like a puzzle designed to ultimately bring the world under submission. But with all their strategy, they forgot one thing: knowledge. And knowledge is power. With knowledge, their bombardment is nullified. Folks, with that, as brilliant and knowledgeable as you've become, among the wisest audience of any radio audience in the world, and you are, I want you to take a moment to reflect and ask yourself, how much of that knowledge did I obtain from Republic Broadcasting Network? How high has my consciousness been raised since I've been a listener? How fast am I now able to discriminate truth from fake news by being a Republic Broadcasting listener? How clear am I now able to see the world since I've been listening to RBN? Ask yourselves those questions, folks. Then ask yourself, what is that knowledge worth to me? Like my morning coffee, how would I survive without it? A voice of truth in a sea of lies. Do we not all need to make sure it survives? Like public broadcasting, we are now finding we can only survive with listener support. Censorship, advertisers being attacked, truth itself being attacked. It's the only way through this. We at Republic Broadcasting humbly ask you to become a supporter. Look at your budget and make a determination of what Republic Broadcasting is worth to you and what you can afford on a monthly basis. Go to republicbroadcasting.org and pledge $20, $30, $40, $50, if possible, $100 a month or more if it's affordable. Click the donate button and become a regular monthly donor. Assure both us and yourself that Republic Broadcasting truth will continue to flow like that morning coffee. The network thanks you.
We the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. We're talking with Frank in London. And Frank, just sort of pick up from where you left off.
Yes. Like I was saying, we seem to it seems like it's okay for certain parties, the Democrats and people like that, of that sort, and the left to say all kind of outrageously racist remarks, and even black people who've walked away from the Democrats after decades of believing in them. It seems like it's okay to make racist remarks about these people, which you can see the clear double standards. So I dare you to have a freedom of choice. You would be with us, or you would be called certain names.
Yes.
You know.
Now,
And
do you
this is-
remember
this-
over
this is just
on
to show you that
on Democracy Now! With Amy Goodman a while back? In fact, it's been a few years. She interviewed a member of Israel's Knesset who admitted on air that anti-Semite was just a tactic. It was a trick that Israel supporters would use to just stop people from asking questions that Israel couldn't answer. And that's where it all came from. Now, of course, they're trying to redefine it to say that all criticism of the government of Israel is hatred of the Jewish people, which is nonsense. That's like saying that the only reason anybody complains about the Nazis is they hate Germans. And it's completely and utterly absurd. But Israel survives on this kind of stuff, and the corporate media just eats it up and spits it right back out.
That's right. But in reality, it's not really gaining any traction because, you know, you get people at the workplace, they may not say that, you know, out of fear of maybe their employment might be at risk, but nobody is really buying it because it's
it doesn't
not
matter
really
because it's being
tangible out
encoded
there
into
in the
law.
public.
It's being encoded into the law.
That's right.
Yeah, that's the real danger.
Yeah. Yep. Because I don't know if you knew about Ken Livingstone. I don't know if you heard about Ken Livingstone. He was he used to be the former London mayor of London.
Yes.
And he said that Zionism and Zionism was just the other side of the coin, and he was vilified for that.
Yes.
But you know, the guy was historically correct. You know, so this is where we are today. You know, the hypocrisy that is unbelievable. But I'm happy to see that a lot of people are standing up like yourself and exposing these people for who they really are. You know, and it is they're either a one worlder or an Israel firster, one out of the two. You know. That's what we see
as you yourself mentioned at the beginning of your call, you know, we don't want to paint with a broad brush. There are a lot of Jewish people who are just not involved in any of these activities, and you know, they're good people. I still look back on Renee Valente with a great deal of fondness, and we do need to confine ourselves to specific individuals who are known to be doing bad things. And by the way, a lot of people wrote on in to remind me that the guy who killed Mary Fagan was named Leo Frank. And it was a big, ugly stink about that whole thing. Anything else, Frank?
Oh, that's all, Mike. All I can say is thanks and keep educating people.
I will just as long as I can. And thank you very much for the phone call. We're going to let you go. The phone lines are now open here. Getting on back to the conflict zones, apparently the U.S.-led coalition airstrikes have killed over 120 civilians in Syria in this last month. These are non-combatants, which the U.S. likes to call collateral damage, like that somehow makes it much more acceptable to blow somebody into bloody bits. The Russian Ministry of Defense is still out there saying that the white helmets are getting ready for some kind of a big false flag chemical attack. Apparently they're hiring locals to take part. They're paying in food, taking advantage of the hardship in the region here. And basically, Defense Ministry spokesman Major General Igor Konashenkov is saying that we have repeatedly informed the public about attempts by radical militants and the white helmets, notorious for their fakes, to organize provocations using chemical agents and accusing government forces of using chemical weapons against the local population. And apparently on October 27th, the Russian ministry received information that 20 10-liter containers of chlorine had been transferred for use in Marat al-Numan, a city in Idlib province. So yeah, they're getting ready to do it. And they'll blame Assad, which is utterly ridiculous. Assad has nothing to gain from a chemical attack. But the U.S. corporate media is going to say, well, he's just evil. That's why he did. He's evil. It doesn't have to make sense. Just believe us. He's evil. We're good, and we're going to go in and kill a bunch of people. We're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Ladies and gentlemen, J.R. Moore here. As most of you know, my regular listeners, I offer energy cleaners for sale at my website. If you don't have a clue what I'm talking about, go to my website, thelibertyman.com, educate yourself about these marvelous healing devices. We focus on pain mitigation and getting a great night's sleep. Arthritis pain, joint pain, back pain, doesn't matter. Keep in mind, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. Energy cleaners, $285, shipping included to American zip codes. You can educate yourself all about the energy cleaner right there at my website, the patent application, the wonderful testimonials. Be sure and check out the factory-made fitted mattress pads to go with the energy cleaner. Now, I offer from me to you personally a 30-day money-back guarantee. That's what I do. I have a toll-free order line, or you can order it right at my website at thelibertyman.com. The toll-free order line is 800-592-9543. I say again, 800-592-9543. Thank you.
Did you know that neither the American Medical Association nor the American Bar Association were established to benefit the American people? Have you recognized that in our country, healthcare has little to do with health, and that our court system has nothing to do with justice? The priests of both medicine and law have been incentivized to implement a dark agenda on behalf of the Bilderbergers and their ilk. To protect ourselves and our progeny, we need to take a much closer look at how these two giant industries really work. Join me, Al Whitney, on In Defense of Humanity, Saturdays at 7 p.m. Central, as we expose the matrix and learn how not to consent to our own destruction.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AROutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more, plus mag-full clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AROutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AROutfitting.com.
When all this twisted steel was swept away, did these remaining holes reveal what's really happened?
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. So let's talk a little bit about what's going on in Saudi Arabia, because things there are about to get very, very tense. Now, there's a report that came on out from Global Research up in Canada, basically confirming that this Saudi Tiger hit squad was formed last year by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman to covertly assassinate regime critics internally and abroad. And apparently, U.S. and other Western intelligence agencies know all about them. It's basically these dozens of highly skilled intelligence, security, and military operatives, all of them intensely loyal to Mohammed bin Salman. And what they'll do is abductions, and murders, the way Khashoggi was eliminated, staged car, plane, or helicopter crashes, fires claiming targeted individuals, poisonings, or lethal injections during routine hospital or other medical visits. So this appears to have been the group that did Khashoggi. And Mohammed bin Salman was very reckless to have this happen in the consulate. And I made the observation the other day that given how many journalists are killed anyway, why did this one attract so much attention? Now, there's no question that Khashoggi's writing for the Washington Post brought the Washington Post on board. And he was obviously more than just a writer. He appears to have had intelligence connections. But I speculated a while ago that this is being fanned up as part of a campaign to get Mohammed bin Salman out of power. And sure enough, today, story out of Middle East Monitor here, Saudi dissident Prince Khalid bin Farhan Al Saud says he expects a coup to be orchestrated against both King Salman and his heir, Prince Mohammed bin Salman. And he says the coming period will witness a coup against the king and the crown prince. And yes, his popular support is down because of Khashoggi. And basically all that's happening now are attempts to postpone a direct accusation of who issued the orders to have him killed, which Khalid said could have been none other than Mohammed bin Salman. According to the prince, Khashoggi was planning to write his memoirs, which may have been one of the reasons that led to his assassination. Now, Prince Ahmed bin Abdulaziz, the youngest and only living brother of King Salman, has reportedly returned to the kingdom from London this week. And apparently the 76-year-old is plotting to oust his nephew, Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman, on his return. So a source close to the royals told the Middle East Eye, Prince Abdulaziz and others in the family have realized Mohammed bin Salman has become toxic. Yes, he sure has here. Okay, little bit of hopeful news. I'm not going to say it's good news yet, but hopeful news. Apparently, U.S. Defense Secretary James Mattis appears to have called for a ceasefire in Yemen to start in 30 days' time. It says this has gone on long enough. The optics on it are very bad for Saudi Arabia and for the United States and for everybody who's supplying the Saudis with the weapons. And it could very well be that the timing of this announcement is not a coincidence, because it may well be that anybody who's likely to replace Mohammed bin Salman may want to get out of the Yemen war, which has been very costly and has caused Saudi Arabia's public image a lot of damage. So Mattis is saying in 30 days, we're all going to sit down and gather around a table with a ceasefire in place, halt the airstrike operations, and try and work this out. Well, there's a very easy solution. Let the people of Yemen have their own government back. That's it. That's all it's going to take. Of course, that's not what the United States wants. The United States wants the people of Yemen under an internationally approved U.S.-backed government here. Now, Saudi Arabia is very worried about their public image here right now. And they're demanding that the aid agencies operating in Yemen should provide favorable publicity for Riyadh's role in providing some $930 million of humanitarian aid, according to an internal United Nations document. Now, obviously, Saudi's intervention in the war is widely regarded as a prime cause of the humanitarian disaster that has seen roughly 10,000 civilians killed and millions close to starvation. So, although many donors always ask for publicity in return for the grants, the extent of the Saudi demands are highly unusual, meaning they want a lot of favorable publicity. So it may be that Saudi Arabia is looking to replace their rulers. The new rulers coming on in are not going to want to perpetuate the Yemen war, and that's why Mattis is out there saying, let's sit down and call it quits. Okay, we're going to take a phone call now from Al in Canada. Aloha, Al. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hi, Mike. Thanks for taking my call. You know, you're just talking about Saudi Arabia and the journalist. That was it's a disgrace. Anyways, he was murdered in the Saudi consulate. You're obviously familiar with John Pilger and Seymour Hersh and guys like that, of that caliber. I watched a video there on the weekend with John Pilger. It's a newer one, and he said, like within the first 7 minutes of the interview, and it was like an hour long, that basically guys like him and Seymour Hersh, they can't get jobs. They have to do the online thing because the media is so corrupted, it's so bought and paid for. They're just towing the company line. And he said, it's disgraceful. It's absolutely disgraceful. And if he says that, you know what? I believe it. You've been saying it for years.
Yes.
And
well, I learned it the hard way. I learned it the hard way all the way back with the Vincent Foster case. I mean, I walked into people I knew in the newsrooms at the major TV networks with what I thought was going to be, Pulitzer Prize winning story. And I was just going to hand it to them. And it was universal. Get away from me with that. It was like I approached a vampire holding garlic or something.
Yeah. It's that U.S. dollar, right? We're slaves.
Yeah, they don't want to lose their jobs. Well, it's not just the dollar. It's vanity and ego. They're working in the newsroom. They're working for a TV network. They don't want to lose that.
No, they don't want to lose their sponsors, GE. I mean, look what's going on in Fukushima. It's ongoing, Mike.
Yes.
Nothing has changed. Those three nuclear reactors are still melting down. GE designed them, they installed them, and they screwed up, and they own a big chunk of media, and it's verboten.
Okay, let's be clear here. Okay, General Electric designed that design of a reactor. They built 2 of them at the Fukushima Daiichi site. TEPCO constructed the other 2 using parts supplied by GE and following the blueprints. So there's the accuracy there. But that's going to be another, you'll pardon the expression, hot button issue because Japan is just going to dump all that accumulated radioactive water in the ocean because they don't know what else to do with it. And I hope they don't wake up Godzilla.
Or create one.
Yes.
Right? Thanks a lot for your time, Mike. I appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. We're going to switch over to Layla in Ontario. Layla, welcome back to the show. What's on your mind today?
Hi, Mike. Watching or looking at the photos of the people in the caravan, while I feel a great deal of hostility towards them because if they succeed in breaking through the U.S. border, those who do manage to slip through will eventually come to Canada because Trump will pursue them, I'm sure. So I feel very threatened by what's going on there. But there's one thing that I have not yet heard is the responsibility for why those people are so poor and why they have instead resorted to violence and drug peddling. The Catholic Church is greatly responsible wherever the Catholic Church has been strong. And it's not Christianity I'm objecting to. I am a Christian. I may not be a religious Christian, but the teachings of Christianity form the basis of a very moral society. So I'm not attacking Christianity. What I am saying is that the Catholic Church, the Catholic Bank, is a corporation.
Yes.
And it always has been. It is the vestiges of the Roman Empire, the corrupt portion of the Roman Empire. Now,
okay. Now,
Pope Francis,
I think you're oversimplifying. Because throughout history, the Roman Catholic Church has always worked hand in hand with the ruling class. And together, they basically exploit the masses. Now, South America as a whole has been the victim of U.S. economic predation. And that really set the stage for them not having a lifestyle like we have or used to have in this country. And it doesn't help that many of those governments in South America are extraordinarily corrupt, and everybody's just grabbing what money there is for themselves because there really isn't enough to go around. And it's when you reach that stage that the population starts resorting to violence and crime and drug dealing, because, you know, if you can get away with the drug dealing, you can make a lot of money.
Well, yes, Mike, but I also lived in Quebec, where the Catholic Church was largely responsible for subjugating or subduing, keeping the French Catholic population under the thumb of the Anglos. This was well known, and once the French Catholics broke free of the Catholic Church, what the church did was forbid, for example, contraception. So families were overburdened with too many children, no jobs, and so obviously desperation arises. Yes, and I remember the days of the Central Americans and South Americans and Mexicans flashing the signs, "Go home, gringo, go home, gringo." Yes, they were blaming the Americans because the Americans they thump through like a giant, making themselves incredibly obtrusive. Yes. However, the church works in quiet ways to subjugate its army of people. Everyone wants to have large followers who donate to their cause. Yes. And the Catholic Church not only sexually abused the children and possibly adult women and maybe even men who just don't come forward, but it has been very abusive in many ways. But if the money that's in the Vatican Bank were to be used to help the people who put it there. I remember when I lived in Mexico, going to a place called Cristo Rey, where there was on the very top of a mountain the statue of a Christ figure, and the peasants would crawl up this long hill to the very top on their bare naked knees in order to deposit a centavo or two at the foot of the statue so the church could have it.
Yep.
The people have now, again, the principles of Christianity are wonderful, and I think they are the most, I follow them through common sense, not for any other reason, quite frankly, but so it's not Christianity, and it is not even Catholicism. It is simply the corporate mentality of the Catholic Church. If this communist Pope Francis were to break open the bank and take care of those people who were in that caravan, or those hordes of invading people who seem to feel justified because they've been robbed, they can rob back to anyone else who has too much. And one final thing that we always forget, Hollywood exported false images of life in North America. Everybody had grand homes, numerous cars, swimming pools. Do you think Mexicans or people all over the world, the poor people, did not watch those movies and say, I want that too? So, I mean, these ridiculous fantasies that Hollywood exported also contributed to the hunger for these luxuries. But most of all, in South America, I personally observed, and in Quebec, I observed it. And as I said, it was only after the French Canadians broke free of the Catholic Church, because the government worked closely with the Catholic Church, and the Catholic Church was serving the Quebec, the provincial government, in keeping the French Canadians subjugated, uneducated, committed to having huge families, not practicing birth control, and I saw the very same thing in Mexico. So that's all I'm saying is, while I resent and feel almost a repulsion at what I see in this horde that is invading the U.S. border, at the same time my heart goes out to them, because I know what has led to. Nothing happens overnight. For people who criticize me for being too obsessed with historical events, everything is the result. Today is the sum of all the yesterdays and all the things that occurred within those yesterdays. And we cannot divorce today from its causes. And the other thing, too, is the word hate. You cannot divorce hate from humanity. You cannot make hate a crime. Is love a crime? Is anger a crime? I mean, this is part of our makeup. It's like breathing. Tell me not to breathe if you're going to tell me not to hate. I hate some insects. I hate some people. I mean, hate has got to be removed from the legislation that incorporates it in the titles of any crimes, because that's part of human nature. To want things, to have a lust for luxury goods, and if they are devout believers, to obey God. And by the way, although I am not a devout religious Christian, I do believe in a supreme being. There is someone who is above us. And when we forget that, we begin to make ourselves supreme. And that is the other danger. So while people have misrepresented that supreme being and given him or it an anthropomorphic method of thinking, including vengeful, murderous orders, that is a distortion. Clearly there is a supreme being somewhere. Whatever it is, I do not know. But I think we all intuit that it is there, and that is why we aspire to be greater than we are. Anyway, I think I've said enough.
Yeah, we're coming up on a commercial break.
Okay, look at the Catholic Church. Break the bank.
All right.
The Vatican Bank.
All right, thank you for the phone call. We're going to take a break for commercials, and we'll be back with another caller after these few words.
Tired of being lied to by mass media? It's growing more and more apparent today that news is received less and less through standard media outlets. Even with a growing audience every day, RBN is beginning to direct more efforts into social media. Social media and the use of the internet is fast becoming the primary source of people for news, regardless of demographic. RBN has set out to provide some of the best news on the internet through republicbroadcasting.org, and also has begun to use the tools to our advantage by way of social media. Republic Broadcasting is now operating a Facebook page to function as yet another avenue to have our collective voice reach new audiences across not only America, but across the globe as well. The Facebook page features not only news, but also an RBN player to listen to our broadcasts. Get involved by visiting facebook.com/Republic Broadcasting and liking our page and share it with your friends and family, because you can handle the truth.
Extendivite, made from garlic, cayenne, bilberry, hawthorn, ginkgo biloba, valerian, and milk thistle, feeds our body with the nutrients we need to keep healthy. Just listen to what Arthur had to say.
I was just telling you, tell you what a great product you have. I reviewed this about 10 years ago after I had congestive heart failure. And it fixed me up and got me going for the last 10 years. Lately, I've been having heart trouble again, so I placed another order because this was the only thing that ever worked. I just wanted to let you know that you have a great product. Thank you very much.
Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
Do you or a loved one suffer migraine headaches? Listen to what scientist Kurt Hendricks has to say.
35 million people in the United States suffer with debilitating migraines. If you or a loved one are one of them, you need to know about MigraLief. Hi, I'm Kurt Hendricks, the scientist that formulated and patented the MigraLief migraine formula. MigraLief is a non-prescription dietary supplement recommended by neurologists, pharmacists, and pediatricians to address nutritional deficiencies in both adults and children over 2 with migraines. Try MigraLief for 3 months and see the powerful difference it can make in your life, or get your money back, no questions asked. Go to MIG911.com or call 800-MIG-7354. You can change your life today.
So if you suffer from migraines, don't wait. Call 800-MIG-7354. That's 800-MIG-7354, or visit MIG911.com.
Well, they're stealing down on Wall Street and in Washington, too. You know, it makes me wonder What's a guy on Main Street to do? Always tried to be an honest, upstanding kind of guy. And I must admit lately, I thought about giving something else a try. Oh, I want to be a pirate. I want to sail the seven seas. Yeah, I want to be a pirate.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. And before we go back to the phones here, got an email saying that Layla is right. I was born here in Quebec 68 years ago, and I've lived here all my life. The Catholic Church ruled most Quebecers with an iron fist. Even 15 years ago, in the smaller farming communities, it was common for the priest to drop in on couples still considered to be of childbearing age and ask lots of private, personal questions if the woman was not dropping a kid every 2 to 2.5 years. And yeah, I think most people would agree that was tacky. But interestingly enough, in the history of California during the mission period, where all those missions were being run by the Catholics, and they converted and were using the indigenous natives as labor. And obviously, if you have more workers, you do better. And so the priests would literally put a man and a woman, a Native American man and woman, into a room and stand there and watch to make sure that the man impregnated her. And if the man refused, he would be flogged. Alrighty, let's take another phone call here. Mateus in Canada, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
A very kinky routine there you just described. Okay, so I'm not going to name any names, but I've got a low tolerance threshold for immigrants that trash talk their host countries, try to hurt their tourist industry.
Yes.
Especially when they're getting benefits in the country. Hey, regarding there are some Russian generals proposing to use super nukes on the Yellowstone volcano in the San Andreas fault line to take us out without an all-out nuclear exchange. Not that would probably work. We'd still probably retaliate. But this guy is saying that this would put an end to the transnational elite and an end to the sanctions against Russia.
Well,
so it's kind of an eye-opener for me to realize how much these sanctions are upsetting them. And it reminded me of like an abused wife that's keeping quiet for years, but secretly in their heart they're just plotting some like murder revenge one day.
Well, I don't know exactly where this story was sourced, and I'm questioning whether it might be fake news to make the Russians look bad. But the fact of the matter is that the top of the magma chamber underneath the Yellowstone supervolcano is 5 miles deep. And we're talking 5 miles of congealed lava, which has the consistency of poured concrete. And there is no nuclear weapon that could punch a vent through that, not even the Soviet Union's Tsar Bomba, which they only built one of as a technology demonstrator, and they already detonated that one. So it's a nonsensical idea. If you wanted to use a nuclear weapon to attack the United States and make it look like an act of nature, then you would head to the Canary Islands, to Cumbre Vieja, which is this volcano whose western flank is already showing signs of subsidence. There's a rift zone where literally the entire side of the mountain has already dropped down about 10 feet. So you go into one of the lava tubes and you set off the nuke there. The western side of the volcano plops into the ocean. You get a mega tsunami. Anyway, Mateus, got to take a break for station identification.
Over. I had another point.
All right, I'll keep you over. We'll be right back.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
You're listening to Republic Broadcasting Network, because you can handle the truth.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. You're listening to the Republic Broadcasting Network, where you'll find out what the Fukushima's going on.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show, hour number 3. The phone lines are open, 800-313-9443, and we are talking with Mateus up in Canada. You said you had another point you wanted to bring up.
Yeah, regarding the Vicks vapor rub bombs and the synagogue shooting. I mean, they said that it was containing energetic material, so that could be anything. It could be Vicks vapor rub. I just want to point out that it's either the Zionists that are directly who are the globalists in the deep state. It's either Zionists directly, or it's Zionists bribed and blackmailed politicians and officials.
Again, you're oversimplifying. Basically, the deep state is everybody who is a money junkie and is willing to break the law and kill people to get what they want. And it basically crosses.
They're either Jews or.
Okay, Mateus, hang on.
Okay. They're either directly.
Mateus,
like 99% of the time.
All right, we're going to drop you. I'm trying to make an important point here. What we're really dealing with here is uncontrollable money and power addiction. And that kind of mental illness crosses all social categories, all ethnic groups. You got to realize that it's not a simple world. There are very complex dynamics behind everything that we see going on, whether it's assassinations or wars. And just don't oversimplify. Alrighty, so getting on back to Saudi Arabia. Apparently Saudi Arabia has executed an Indonesian woman who worked as a maid who killed her employer while the employer was trying to rape her. And she was basically put to death by Saudi Arabia, and it's caused a bit of a diplomatic stir because she's a citizen of Indonesia, and the Indonesian government was not notified either of her arrest or impending execution. So Jakarta is currently outraged because apparently this is the 4th time in 3 years that Saudi Arabia has executed Indonesian migrant workers without notifying Jakarta. So they're not happy about that. Alrighty, over at the United Nations, Syria is protesting over Israel elections in the occupied Golan Heights. Now, as you know, Israel basically moved on into the Golan Heights. They basically declared that they'd annexed it, which nobody recognized in the international community. And they're trying to basically Judaize the Golan by imposing Israeli-style government, including city councils and elections. And the Syrians are very upset about that because this contradicts United Nations resolutions and the Geneva Conventions on how occupying countries have to treat the territories under occupation. Of course, we already know from the West Bank that Israel absolutely ignores the UN resolutions and the Geneva agreements on how territories are supposed to be protected. Apparently over in the Golan Heights themselves, the Druze are also protesting against the Israeli municipal elections. So things are heating up over there. Israel may have itself another Gaza on their hands because the anger is clearly building here. Apparently, Israel put out an idea that maybe the best way to settle things down in Gaza was for them to just take over complete control. You know, just kick out Hamas once and for all and impose Israeli government back over Gaza. Basically, they want it back. And the Arab states are rejecting this, according to Israel's Channel 7 News. And again, this would be just a way of Israel reclaiming Gaza. Now, if you'll remember, Ariel Sharon sort of came to this little nudge, nudge, wink, wink deal with the West, where they would give Gaza back to the Palestinians in exchange for the West turning a blind eye to the construction of illegal settlements in the West Bank. And all the way back when that was happening, I said, as soon as those settlements are facts on the ground and cannot be torn down, Israel's going to look for some way to reclaim Gaza. And I think it's about ready to happen. If you see those reports about tanks waiting on the border right there. Article out of Middle East Monitor, the three faces from Gaza fueling anger. Apparently, these three children who were killed in an airstrike have prompted a huge amount of anger and outrage in Gaza, especially because there was supposed to have been a ceasefire. Now, surprisingly, as we head into the midterms, here in the United States, there is a U.S. Democratic Party congresswoman who described Israel's nation-state law as apartheid at a Palestinian rights event. So Representative Betty McCollum, in accepting a leadership award at the U.S. Campaign for Palestinian Rights Conference, said that Israel's policies were brutal and cruel, and apparently she has submitted a bill to end U.S. funding for the detention of Palestinian children. And she didn't pull any punches. She basically said the world has a name for that form of government that's codified in the nation-state law, and that is called apartheid. I hope she does okay in the election here. Investigators are still looking into what exactly happened to Gaddafi's billions, which apparently have vanished in Belgium. Now, there are two different versions of the story. The first one is that all of the money may be gone. And investigators are looking at it, but the banks are saying privacy, 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 even though Gaddafi is obviously no longer with us. The second version of the story is that the original money that was in the account when it was ordered to be frozen is still there. But all of the interest that has been generated off of that money has been allowed to be sent someplace else, and nobody really knows where. All right, we're going to take another phone call here. Fred in Iowa, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, aloha, Mike. Mike, when you said that the deep state is people that are greedy for money and senators, congressmen, presidents, dictators, I would say that is the employees, that is the soldiers. The deep state is very, very few people. And if and when we can discover who the head or heads, but I would say the ultimate head of the deep state, then we'll know how to protect ourselves. The lady, I think her name was Layla or Leela in Canada, she covered a lot of ground.
Yes, she does.
But if men could sit down, people face to face or groups, and make every effort to talk to each other civilly and discuss their different points of views and the reason for them. But we are so divided, and there's a reason why we're divided, that there is so much anger. People are polarized and they're all arguing and fighting against each other. Now, you take the deep state, I'll use that term, that word, the deep state. There is many factions. There most certainly is, and I can name all the important ones. And they hate each other's guts. But one thing that they do when they get in trouble or they have a problem, they coalesce. They stick together. There's no division in them. Whereas you take the regular Joe Blow and Christian atheist, and if I may say the word, a dumbass.
Hang on a second. I'll be right back. Okay, I am back. My apologies, but it sounded like something bad had happened to Claire in the office next door. Okay, let me reiterate what I think the deep state is. Do you remember when you were back in like high school and there was always that one group of, you know, the beautiful people, the socias, the clique, whatever the name was applied to it, and it was usually the kids of the rich parents, and they hung together and they always looked out for each other and they would lie to cover each other, and they seemed to just get away with all kinds of bad behavior, and it was infuriating to watch. Well, that's basically how a deep state operates. So you take that little high school clique and you scale it up and add in a lot of war weapons, and you have basically the same thing. It is a group of people of all races, creeds, color, and religion who are willing to do anything for more money and more power. And they're willing to cooperate with other members of the deep state. Like, again, as we reported earlier, the Department of Justice was knowingly signing false affidavits to protect Hillary Clinton's email server. That's exactly the kind of behavior we see in a high school clique. And the FBI, of course, had granted all these people immunity, so they would never be held to task for it. And that's the behavior that we're seeing. And they're very wealthy, they're very powerful, they have an unshakable sense of entitlement, and they're absolutely convinced that they deserve all the good things in life and you don't. And it's very hard to get people like that to sit down at the table and talk because they don't feel you're worth talking to.
Well, Mike, you've got a very good point, but I would say the deep state goes back a hell of a lot farther than that. Now, I'm 81. I guess you could call me an old fart or whatever. But I left school rather suddenly when I was 16 years old before I finished the 10th grade. Now, I wasn't so aware, and I'm not saying in my lifetime, especially when I was in the teens, that it was a perfect world. But there was a different set of values then. But I didn't really notice these cliques to the extent as they are now. But what you said about, well, I don't know if you use this term, but the wealthy people or the lords in Europe, and the aristocracy, yes, they have bred together and maintained their power through the century. So this isn't new. But Mike, with all respect, I would like to direct you to a website. Now, I don't agree in total with these two people, and I don't know if I can get you there, but at any rate, it's... hang on here, I'm trying to pull it up, but oh my gracious, Stephen Molyneux, the philosopher in Canada.
Yeah.
Now, I don't agree with everything he says, but I want to put you onto his website. Now, he's an avowed atheist, and the person, he was on another show, and they come on each other's shows, the Rubin show, and the other guy, and when I say this, I don't mean it to be derogatory, but he is a self-avowed Ashkenazi Jew, and Molyneux is an atheist. But the discussion, the civil discussion they had together, and the points they covered, and it was there was a lot of enlightenment, a lot of knowledge that went back and forth. Okay. It is
Fred.
Let me give you this, Stephen Molyneux, on abusive relationships, atheism, race, and IQ. And I think you'll find it fascinating and interesting. And I know you're a busy man, but it's an hour long. But anyhow, try it out. Anyway, thank you, my friend, and have a good day. Bye-bye.
All right, thanks an awful lot, and we're going to let you go and get on back here to the news. Now, we talked about this a little while ago, where Poland wants a permanent U.S. military base. They're willing to pay $2 billion for it. Ooh, wow, $2 billion here. A lot of money. This is out of Army Times here. And, of course, the spin being put on this is that Poland is afraid of Russian aggression, and they want a permanent U.S. military base, and they're willing to fork over $2 billion for it. It's all about the money. Yes, $2 billion sounds like a lot of money until you realize how much is spent to maintain a permanent U.S. military base. And what Poland is really looking at is all the money that's going to pour on into that military base and then filter on out to the surrounding economy. Because you've got all the people who are going to be living on that military base. They're not going to be spending all of their time there. They're going to get out into the countryside. You know, the base is going to go to local suppliers for things like food. So it's a business investment. We're going to invest $2 billion to get you to build a permanent U.S. military base here under the excuse that Russia is a threat to us, and we're going to make some buku bucks out of all of it. All righty, now, we're starting to see a shift in the rhetoric coming out of the Russian republics here, and Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu is voicing his concern over what he described as the militarization of the European continent by promising action instead of empty rhetoric. And what he's basically saying is Russia will take action if Ukraine or Georgia join NATO. Now remember, this is a big sore point because back when the Soviet Union collapsed and the Russian republics were formed, Gorbachev was given a promise by Europe, by the United States, by NATO, that NATO would stick with its current easternmost boundary, which at that time was Germany. And of course, what happens with American promises? Almost immediately, they started grabbing these countries and bringing them into NATO, moving closer and closer to Russia's borders. And Russia is obviously very concerned about that, given the United States demonstrated belligerence against other countries around the world. So basically what Russia is talking about is they're going to create a defense belt near Sochi. And they're going to be spending the resources to basically build up some kind of a fortification. I hope they're not going to recreate the Maginot Line because that didn't work out. But it could involve missiles, could involve military bases. And here's where it gets really, really interesting. And I warned you this was probably going to happen. Russia is now assessing the possibility of a military base in Cuba following the U.S. intermediate-range nuclear forces pull out. Now, back when Obama was in office, one of the few things he did that I thought was a good idea is he started making nice with Cuba. Said, let's ease the blockade. Let's open things up for tourism and, rum and cigars and all that good stuff, and because it's been such a very long time. And back then I said, it's a smart thing to do, because if we ever get into a situation of conflict with Russia again, Russia will not have access to Cuba because Cuba it will be brought into the U.S. sphere of influence. Then Trump got into office, and all of a sudden everybody was out there bashing Cuba and alienating Cuba, and yes, the blockade is still going on, and we hate the Cubans. And sure enough, Russia's going to look at setting up another military base in Cuba. We're going to replay the Cuban Missile Crisis all over again. Idiots. They're idiots. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials. We'll be right back.
Do you or someone you know suffer from chest pain, blood pressure, cholesterol, or irregular heartbeat? Are you looking for a more natural solution to overcome these health challenges? You hear the ads all the time. If this stuff's so good, why doesn't my doctor prescribe it? That's easy. Doctors are not trained in natural medicine. Extendivite Heart Tonic does want you to be as healthy as you can be, and it really works. Take Extendivite for 6 months and your doctor will say, I don't know what you're doing, but don't stop. It's working for you. Get the dependability of Extendivite. Just see how you feel in 6 months. A 2-month supply of either capsules or liquid is only $69.95 plus shipping and handling. Call 1-877-928-8822. That's 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendovite.
Attention RBN listeners. Dr. Ignatius Piazza, founder of Front Sight Firearms Training, and fate have come together to allow RBN to run another fundraiser till the end of the year. We didn't really expect this opportunity, but thankfully it's here and running as you hear this. We've set a goal of 500 donations by the end of the year, which averages around 6 per day, 7 days a week. When you realize all the folks listening to RBN all hours of the day and night, we think our goal is realistic and extremely critical to keep RBN on the air. If everybody listening will seriously assess their ability with firearms and then take advantage of this opportunity, we feel our goal is very conservative. Please take the time to look over Front Sight's website to get an idea of an amazing facility and the world-class training that's going on there. If this interests you, you likely will have like-minded friends that would like to know. Tell them. If for some reason some listeners are not personally interested, consider sons and daughters, close friends, nieces or nephews, top valued employees, inform club members, share the opportunity with police and fire departments. It's not too early to plan Christmas presents for special people. This fundraiser has come at an extremely critical time for RBN because the dire need for equipment upgrades. We're running on the spare tire currently with no money to fix a flat, and the fuel gauge is bouncing on E. This is one of the most valuable ways you can help RBN financially because you get Commander lifetime membership value that is 50 times your donation and can be passed on forever. How many times during life do you get to leave a legacy? See more details and contact info on our webpage, republicbroadcasting.org, and thank you.
We will not go down in the night without a fight. You can burn up our mosques and our homes and our schools, but our spirit will never die. We will not go down in Gaza tonight.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, Kiev is stepping into the fray, calling for sanctions against all Russian ports in the Black Sea. And apparently, it's just another way of trying to get Russia not to use the Black Sea. See, when the coup d'etat took place against Yanukovych in Ukraine, it was expected Crimea would remain, and with Ukraine turning over to Europe, that would deprive Russia of access to that port. But of course, Crimea had a referendum. They left Ukraine. They merged with the Russian republics. And under the terms of the Montreux Convention, that gives Russia access to the Black Sea. And so now Kiev is saying there have to be sanctions against the Russian port. So, again, it's just more provocations. They're really not going to be happy until they start a war here. Meanwhile, Russia is going to hold live missile drills outside Norway, right next to where they're having that massive NATO drill. They're calling it Trident Juncture. That's the NATO drill. So they're going to be launching all kinds of missiles. I certainly hope they have better luck than that the South Koreans had with that Patriot missile test that blew up 4 seconds out of the launch tube here. China's Xi Jinping is telling Chinese military officials responsible for the disputed South China Sea to be better prepared for war as tensions with the U.S. are rising. Beijing may be bracing for a worst-case scenario with the U.S. Well, at this point, I think it's pretty much obvious that the United States is pushing China's buttons, and that there could easily be a war over those islands, which, by the way, are not disputed. The Cairo Convention at the end of World War II gave those islands back to China. They had belonged to China before World War II. Japan invaded and conquered them. The Cairo Convention gave it back. There is no dispute. There are other countries that covet those islands. They desire them. They want them. But there's no dispute. Those islands are China sovereign territory here. Okay. Now, North Korea's apparently preparing the nuclear and missile sites for international inspectors. This is coming out of South Korea's spy agency, which says they're observing preparations in North Korea for international inspection at several of its nuclear and missile test sites. And the South's National Intelligence Service observed North Koreans conducting preparation and intelligence activities that seem to be in preparation for foreign inspectors' visits. Over in Great Britain, 2 Royal Air Force jets were scrambled to intercept Russian bombers as they approached UK airspace. Now, again, the Russian bombers stayed in international airspace, but they want to make a big deal. Oh, the Russians, they're being aggressive. They're approaching British airspace. How dare they? Well, under international law, they can go pretty much wherever they want. That's the same justification the United States has for flying their nuclear armed bombers over those South China Sea islands here. Okay, getting on back to Trump's desire for a space force, Secretary of Defense James Mattis is upping the ante, and he's now out there saying it's not enough for the United States to have advanced weapons on Earth, but in order for the nation to be safe, the country needs offensive weapons in space in order to defend ourselves. In other offense, defense, and so forth. Basically wants to replay Reagan's Star Wars program, which bankrupted the nation and didn't produce much of anything that really worked. Now, the thing is, there is a treaty. It was signed back in, I think it was 1967. And it was the Outer Space Treaty, which prohibits the deployment of any weapons of mass destruction to the Earth's orbit. It also bans states from testing any weapons in outer space, as well as from establishing military bases on the moon or other celestial bodies. But we know what's going to happen. Trump's just going to walk away from the treaty, just like he walked away from the INF and the Iran deal. The treaties are not worth the paper they are written on. Meanwhile, the U.S. intelligence budget has soared under Donald Trump. Military intelligence was up almost $4 billion. The National Intelligence Program went from $54.6 billion to $59.4 billion. That includes the NSA, CIA, and other agencies. And of course, no transparency. They're not going to say where any of this money is being spent because it could harm national security. I'll bet they're throwing some really wild parties. All right, we're going to take another break for commercials, and we will be right back.
You are tuned in to the Republic Broadcasting Network. Visit our website by going to republicbroadcasting.org.
Okay, nurse, let's get this man to the ER stat.
Right away, doctor.
We see this every day. Heart attack or angina pain due to blocked and clogged arteries. Chelation can remove obstructions or blockages from arteries and help avoid painful and expensive surgery. Now there's Angioprim. It's a liquid oral chelation product that you take with juice. You start to feel the results fast. Angioprim increases blood flow all over the body, and that means more energy and strength to take on the day with less aches and pains. 60 years of research has gone into chelation, and Angioprim is the result. A safe and easy way to unblock your veins and arteries from buildup that slows circulation.
Paging Dr. Jones. Please report to the emergency room right away.
Log on now for a special radio offer from Angioprim. That's angioprim.com/radio. ANGIOPRIM. Angioprim.com/radio or call 877-882-7221. That's 877-882-7221.
This is too good to be true, except this time it is real. 100%. No joke. How about a $25,000 membership to Front Sight Firearms Training Facility as a thank you bonus for a one-time donation to RBN of only $500? It is a Commander lifetime membership with no yearly fees or dues. The training is free for the rest of your life with over 50 different classes. Then leave it to your designated beneficiary. You provide the approved firearm, holster, ammo, eye, and ear protection. Many features and bonuses are included, more than you would ever expect or believe. This is the ultimate graduation present, wedding gift, etc., etc. See the details. Go to RBN's webpage and frontsight.com to make it happen. You will hear this offer only on this radio network. Help keep RBN alive. Tell 5.
Many people write us about their experience with Extendivite. Allow me to read you one from Amazon.com. I just wanted you to know I saw my doctor and I laughed because he said, "I don't know what you're doing, but keep doing it." I have been taking Extendivite. I had borderline high blood pressure, heart flutter, high cholesterol. I changed my diet and included Extendivite with an amazing turnaround for the better. A few months later, I had a doctor's appointment and took a stress test. I passed. No heart flutter, blood pressure was perfect. My doctor even took me off my medicine. I thank you truly from the bottom of my heart. This stuff works, and I'm so grateful for Extendivite. Thank you, Justin G. Tell us your story. Get Extendivite today. Call 1-877-928-8822 or visit heartdrop.com.
Extend your life with Extendivite.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Join Mike on the air. Call toll-free 800-313-9443. 800-313-9443.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show here. Now, the United States has allocated $40 million to the Global Engagement Center in an attempt to fight what they call the Russian and Chinese propaganda machine. This came out of the State Department just yesterday. And basically, it's a propaganda war. It's a propaganda war because the U.S. government is now admitting They're using propaganda on you, the American people. So it's dueling propaganda. So we'll see what comes out of that here. Article coming out of defense1.com. The Pentagon's getting more secretive, and it's hurting national security. And it's basically saying that there's huge increases of defense spending, and there seems to be a lot of corruption going on. Americans are rightly concerned about the need for transparency. Remember September 10th, 2001, when Secretary of Defense Rumsfeld got up there and admitted the Pentagon had just misplaced $3 trillion. And it should have been the big financial story of the year, but of course the next day 9/11 happened and Rumsfeld was off the hook. Now we know that the Pentagon has lost much more than that. And I don't think we should be giving them any more money until they can sort of figure out what they did with the last batch. That's not the way the Pentagon thinks. You know, the money goes in the front, war comes out the back. And so this Defense One is basically saying, yeah, the Pentagon's lack of transparency is hurting national security because we don't know what's going on inside there and how things are being done. Now, as you know, the weapons procurement programs plus in the Pentagon, they're rife with corruption. They're inefficient. It's driven by kickbacks and favoritism and politics, and it doesn't produce cost-effective weaponry. And again, I keep going on back to that book and movie, The Pentagon Wars, which is based on the true story of the development of the Bradley infantry fighting vehicle. And it really is a joke. And you look at some of the stuff that's come on out from the military-industrial complex and the Pentagon, military procurement, over the last several years. The F-22 can't fly at its design altitude because it's asphyxiating the pilots. The F-35 has a huge laundry list of problems with it. Can't fly in the fog, can't fly in the rain, can't fly near lightning. The electronics still don't work. The onboard cannon still doesn't work. The Gerald R. Ford, all kinds of problems to the point where some people are saying it may never actually be usable in combat. It may be relegated to a training ship. So it's just all about the money. And they're doing it again. Back during the last Cold War, it was just the military-industrial complex played a dirty, dirty trick on the American people. They waved a scarecrow at us called the Soviet Union, and then they took all our money and our kids, and they played their little games. And with the fall of the Soviet Union, it was all supposed to go away. We didn't have any more enemies. We were the sole superpower left on Earth. The American people wanted a peace dividend. We never got it. And so now they're playing the same dirty trick on the next generation. Ooh, be afraid of Russia. Be afraid of China. We need all of your money. We need to take your military-aged children. But boy, we're going to have some fun. Judicial Watch has released 49 new pages of State Department documents showing top Soros representatives in Romania collaborating with the State Department in a program jointly funded by, among others, Soros's Open Society Foundations, Romania, and USAID, called the Open Government Partnership. And one has to wonder what that really means. The Open Government Partnership. Are they planning a regime change in Romania now? The other day we were talking about how Julian Assange had gone public with his prognostication that Ecuador was about to revoke his asylum status and just toss him out on the street. Ecuador's government is very upset that he said that, but apparently Julian Assange cited the White House admission that Vice President Mike Pence had spoken about the next steps with Ecuador's president. So the U.S. and Ecuador are talking about getting Assange back to the U.S. It's not going to be pleasant for him, I'm sorry to say. All right, let's take a phone call here. Daniel in British Columbia, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Yeah, happy Halloween, Mike. I hate to beat this dead horse already, but this synagogue thing, it's really bugging me. And you posted a story yesterday, and I can't find it. I was wondering if you could bump it up. It's something about nurses, Jewish nurses, and Jewish doctors treating this shooter.
Yeah.
And one nurse said she just came from a mass casualty drill. This reminds me of the Boston bombing. The same thing happened there, where there was a triage unit at Beth Israel Hospital in Boston. And the entire trauma unit was run by an IDF doctor named Dr. Kevin Tabb. And all his doctors were like students from Israel. I just, and then the story was, despite the guys, the Boston bombers being these killers, they took their Hippocratic oath and they helped them, and you kind of get the same thing here, But I just found that really interesting. And I'm not going to be the one to go in and start saying, whether this happened or it didn't happen. I totally agree with you. I think it really doesn't matter. They had this thing probably lined up. This guy just happens to have blue eyes. He looks like the typical Aryan. It's kind of curious that there wasn't any Holocaust survivors that were. I thought they maybe thought that would have been too much to include a couple of those. But I don't know. I'd like to read that article again.
Okay, well, down at the bottom of the main page, there's a row of buttons where you can go to earlier versions of the page, because we do post a lot of content, and it does tend to scroll down off the bottom of the page. The reason I posted the article was basically out there saying that even though this guy said all Jews must die, that these Jewish doctors and nurses were taking care of him. But yeah, the gem in there was the admission that there was a mass casualty drill taking place at the same time as the shooting. And we have seen that before. We know that FEMA was actually on the ground in New York the night before 9/11. We know that down in Oklahoma City, the fire trucks had been deployed to neighboring streets before the bomb went off. And yeah, we see it over and over again, that there's always an associated drill with one of these events. And it's there to provide, first of all, to make sure that everything is there ready to go and look really good, like they know how to do their jobs, and also to provide cover. Remember the London tube bombing? There was a drill going on at the same time there.
Yeah, I do remember that. The guy was dumb enough to announce it, and every mathematician in the world would have been, raising his eyebrows on that one, because the possibilities of that happening at the same time at the same tube stations was pretty remote, astronomical.
Yes.
Another quick point, Trump's getting blamed for going for that shooting. Then they're after him for going to the memorial. And if he didn't go to the memorial, they would have been saying, "Oh, he hates Jews. He didn't go to the memorial, so he can't win one way or another."
No, he can't. Trump has become our national pinata.
Exactly. It was kind of designed, I think, for this midterm. So I'll leave you with that. Good show. Thanks.
All right. Thanks an awful lot. Yeah, it's the beginning of the campaign. And again, Fox News was running a story that anti-Semitic crimes are up in the United States by 57%. And all of this is designed to support Israel's desire that their new definition of anti-Semitism be coded into U.S. law. Okay, apparently also, as we come up on the midterms, the Democrats are launching their Medicare for All program again. They're going to campaign on that. And apparently a bill has been introduced into Congress with a lot of Democratic support. The problem with it is they can't deliver. They can't make good on it. In the first 10 years alone, their Medicare for All program would cost $36 trillion with a T dollars. They can't possibly pay for it. They're campaigning on it, but they can't possibly make it work. And this may backfire on them as well, because polls are showing that most people don't want a single-payer service being run by the United States government. Most people, I think, would prefer to go back to the old original system where you had multiple health insurance providers who had to compete with each other, so you'd have the lowest possible cost and the best possible service. Because that's how it used to work in this country. Competition was said to be a good thing. It was good for the consumers. But corporate CEOs don't like competition. They like monopolies or cartels. Speaking of the economy here, Morgan Stanley is sort of swimming against the flow in Wall Street. They're saying it looks to them like there's a true bear market, that these drops we saw in the stock market recently are not just blips. In fact, according to this article that came out of Investment Watch blog, Morgan Stanley is saying actually the market is screwed. So we'll see what happens with that one. John Malden is out there saying the debt alarms are ringing. And he's basically saying some debts are appropriate, even government debt, and you need to use it to buy a home, to buy a car. But going into debt for everything, no. And that's why the American people are in such trouble. And if you are, right now, if you've got the means to do so, you should be paying off your credit cards, trying to pay down your loans, or get a bill consolidation loan or something to just try and get out of debt as much as possible. And of course, that's the advice we've been handing out here for years now. Just years, okay? Story out of Patriot Rising. The American dream shatters the death of the middle class. We talked about this yesterday. In this country now, with supposedly a healthy economy, most jobs won't support a basic middle class lifestyle because of rising costs. And the costs for housing, costs for food, costs for gas are rising more quickly than wages and salaries, which, to be honest, are pretty much stagnant. As the wealth of the people is getting sucked out to pay for the war machine here. Now, Israel and Boeing have signed a multi-billion-dollar reciprocal spending deal. And what Boeing has done is agreed to spend billions of dollars over the coming decade in Israel in the event that it is awarded major defense contracts by Tel Aviv. And this agreement says Boeing will collaborate with Israeli industries for at least 35% of the value of any transaction with the Israeli government. Now, Boeing is trying for several crucial defense ministry contracts, such as the purchase of additional F-15 aircraft, fueling planes, and transport helicopters, according to a report in Reuters. And of course, while Boeing is over there, Israel will be basically learning how it all works. So we're seeing another iconic American company getting absorbed by Israel. All right, let's take a phone call here. Errol in the Netherlands, aloha. Welcome to the show. What's on your mind?
Hello, am I on the show?
You are on the air. What's on your mind?
I'm on the air? Oh, okay. Happy Halloween, everybody. It's Halloween.
Yes.
What's up, home guys? How are you, Mike? From where are you living now? You need to get to the Netherlands.
Well, I'd like to get someplace. I'm still on Oahu, and so far we're not seeing as much of the craziness, like fighting in the streets that we're seeing on the mainland.
I know.
I'd like to get the money to move someplace. I don't know that the Netherlands would take us at our age.
No problem. Here, when you need to look at how the people are treating each other. Here in the Netherlands, we are okay. We can get to certain parts in this place.
Okay.
But when we look at, yes, it's no problem. I think I saw in a comment in your it doesn't matter. I saw like you need to go to Uganda. I was like, no, I do not going to react to that.
No, I'm not going to go to Uganda.
Listen, Mike.
Yeah.
Mike, listen. I'm living here in the Netherlands, in Rijnsburg. I'm living close to, how do you call it? Rijnsburg is close to the ESA.
Yeah.
European Space Agency. Yeah. I work there. I have worked there. So I know their friends and everything. So if you come here, it's the best place. The other places, when the shit... sorry.
Yeah, gotta watch your language.
I know. Sorry. When it's going to hit the fan, the best place to be. I know some places, but here in the Netherlands is good. I live in Rijnsburg, so everybody can check out the place. Rijnsburg in the Netherlands, but it's a good Christian. Also for Claire, for the everything.
Okay, Errol, I'm going to have to let you go. We got to take another break for commercials. We'll be back. We'll be back with the last segment of our program today after these few words.
Homeowners, are you in foreclosure, expecting to be served with a foreclosure lawsuit, or suspect your lender has coerced you into an illegal mortgage transaction? A huge number of mortgages made in the last 10 years have legal issues and are possibly defective. State laws and the U.S. Supreme Court have upheld that defective mortgage documents are grounds for foreclosure defense and for counterclaims in favor of the homeowner. If your mortgage has been sold or assigned since closing the loan, it may be defective and you may be paying the wrong party, and the lender may not have standing or the right to foreclose or collect payments under the law. If you would like to know if your mortgage is legal or not, or know if you are paying the right party, we can help. Our initial consultations are free of charge. We are not attorneys. We are legal researchers and work closely with experienced lawyers who know how to help you find the evidence to help you keep your home. Call toll free 1-855-2-KEEP-IT. That's 1-855-2-KEEP-IT today.
Without the right accessories, any guy can be off the mark. Whether you've invested thousands in your arsenal or you own a single trusted firearm, a visit to AROutfitting.com is in order. It's one of the finest online selections of tactical optics and AR parts and add-ons, like EOTech, quick target acquisition with no peripheral loss. Browse the full range of Nikon scopes and binoculars. AROutfitting.com can illuminate your world with Streamlight gun-mounted lights from keychain to large handhelds up to 1,100 lumens. Find some stability with Battenfield tactical bipods. AirOutfitting.com has CMMG gun parts, barrels, assemblies, handguards, part kits, and more. Plus magful clips and magazines. I know I've got you excited, so take a breath. Head to AirOutfitting.com. The site's super easy to navigate and features a ton of technical info, including links to manuals. We also welcome vendor and manufacturer inquiries. Remember, if you don't see it, we can get it at AirOutfitting.com.
The First Amendment in the Bill of Rights limits the government's power by ensuring the freedom of speech and preserving the rights of the people. Every day that passes, our rights gradually slip away. It's time to take a stand and let the government know we're tired of losing our rights. LibertyStickers.com will allow you to express your rights and allow millions of people to see you stand up for what you believe in. LibertyStickers.com carries the largest selection of bumper stickers online, ranging from political to humorous, and is your #1 source for Ron Paul for President stickers. As always, you can find your favorite stickers that protest the war and the president. Don't see what you're looking for? Liberty Stickers will custom make stickers that will let you get your message across for all Americans to see. Go to libertystickers.com and see pre-made stickers that will get everyone talking. That's libertystickers.com or call 877-873-9626. Liberty Stickers, the world's most dangerous stickers.
What really happened with your host, Mike Rivero. Visit us online at whatreallyhappened.com. Here is your host, Michael Rivero.
And aloha, America. Welcome back to our show. Last segment of our program here today. Now, over at this advocacy group called Tax Justice Network, they did a study, and they discovered that Switzerland is the world's most corrupt nation. Second place, the United States. Just imagine my shock. Okay, now, despite the claims of the global warming cultists, the fact of the matter is that there's been a heck of a cold snap across much of the country, and it's shooting up demand for natural gas. And because of the law of supply and demand, natural gas prices may head up. And part of the problem is that because last winter was also very cold, inventories fell sharply last year. And so basically the issue is that the inventories were replenished at a much slower rate than expected. There is a supply issue. So if you're dependent on natural gas and you are in an area where it's going to get really cold, you may want to think about maybe as a backup system getting a propane system just for heat. Okay? Now, as you know, India has incurred the wrath of the United States by buying the Russian air defense system and pouring salt on the wound. India is saying they're going to pay for the Russian air defense system in rubles, not dollars. Don't really need to bother with the dollars at all. Okay, down in Iran, there's still a lot of turmoil going on regarding Iran's fate after the sanctions settle in. Now, many of Iran's oil customers are saying they're going to ignore the sanctions and continue to buy oil, but many of Iran's customers are in fact going to respect the sanctions or submit to U.S. arm twisting. And so now they're looking at a situation where the Iranian oil could slip into oversupply in the first quarter of next year, which would be something that would tend to drive prices down, which would put further economic pressure on Iran. So it's weaponized economies is what it is, really. Okay, over in Great Britain, the petition to block a second referendum has gained more than 100,000 signatures. And the petition was launched by Ronald Mitchell after 700,000 people took to London streets demanding a people's vote. Now, I don't know if it was really 700,000. Remember, the Remainers are desperate for this. But 100,000 signatures is the threshold where the British government must respond. So Soros and the globalists, they're still trying to hold it all together. Alrighty, I just got an email. Apparently one of the synagogue victims was identified as a Holocaust survivor, but that was later retracted. And they tried to say, well, she lived through it. She wasn't in the slave labor camps, but she lived through that period. Doesn't that sort of make her a survivor? That's a kind of a loose definition. All right, there's the music. Time for me to get on out of here and get the candy bowl set up here. So have a good evening. Have a happy Halloween. Stay tuned for John Stadmiller. I'm sure he's got lots to share with you. Please donate to RBN. Please donate to whatreallyhappened.com. We'll be back tomorrow. Aloha, America.